welcome to today's video. So this video is going to be about making this lion commission. So the person who commissioned this wanted a red lion with some black accents. So we have the black tail and the black mane and just a couple of different accents on the face. It has a ball and socket armature throughout the whole thing and resin parts, but I'll go into more details throughout the video. So if you're wanting to know how I made this, then stay tuned. Alright, so I started off casting the parts for this lion in resin, and I'm just going to go ahead and clean up all of the flashing off the already cast resin pieces. So when you cast resin in a mold, usually where your mold joins, you have flashing, that's what it's called. So I just go ahead and remove this with either a knife or some pliers. So once I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and paint all of the bits that need to be painted. So the customer requested I have some yellow eyes, so I cast these yellow eyes inside of the resin. If you're interested in how to do that, I have a tutorial in my shop at creaturesofnight.com that you can check out. And yeah, so I'm going around painting all of the bits that need to be painted, mainly just around the eyes, the nose and the mouth in an acrylic black paint. So I use chrome acryl, but you can use any acrylic paint that you can get your hands on. You don't need anything fancy, just whatever's in your local craft store. And I have a post on my Patreon all about paints, so that will be going up very, very soon, but I have a whole lot of other material posts up on my Patreon, and that's at Creatures of Nat. I'll remember to link it in the description box down below if you'd like to join that and support me. I'd be ever so thankful. And usually I just do one coat of paint to begin with, and then add another coat of paint once all of the fur has been applied to the face. Same deal when it comes to the feet. I'm just applying the paint really haphazardly. You don't need to be too particular about where you apply the paint, because usually you're going to cover it in a faux fur anyway, so you don't need to be overly cautious on how you paint it. So I just get a big brush and paint it on, so real quick. Moving on to the fur and the body of the lion. The customer wanted a red line with some black on it, so I ordered some medium length pile red fur, which I'm drawing the pattern for the body out now on the back of the fur piece, and then I'm going to cut it out a little bit later on. But these patterns I've created myself. I maybe add them to Patreon one day. I probably would never sell them just because I'm not really happy, but as for a Patreon, I'd probably be able to offer that as a perk. So anyway, I'm going to be doing the mane in a black fur, so I haven't drawn on the pattern on the red fur, so I'm just going to go around and cut out all of the red pieces that I need. So it's pretty much the whole body and the tail, and I like to use a small pair of sharp scissors for this because I find it cuts the backing a lot better than using anything else like a knife or anything. The knife tends to sort of stretch the fabric a little bit, and it means the pile sort of separates, and I don't really like using that. But yeah, you just try what you like and see what you like. You might find something that works better for you. Just remember to only cut the backing and not the pile of the fur. Moving on to sewing. So this time I'm using a sewing machine, and I like to use a sewing machine because it's a lot quicker than hand sewing, and it's a lot stronger than hand sewing too. So I usually just sew up all of the ends really, and leave the back end and the legs open so I can flip it the right way around. As you can see, I've sewn on the black part of the mane, and then I have a little black piece on the end of the tail as well. So I'm going to go ahead and flip it the right way around. And all you really need to do is grab the head and just pull it through. Need to be a little bit more careful with the legs just to not break the thread, but you have to be pretty rough to break the thread. And I like to use just a wooden tool just to push it through. As you can see on the right there, I use that tool. and yeah, I'm able to push it through pretty easily using that wooden tool. I wouldn't really recommend using anything steel just because it can rip the fabric or even rip the thread, and then you'll have to sew it up again anyway. So this is what we have so far once it's been flipped the right way around. I'll go ahead and pick out all of the pile that's been trapped by the thread around the seams, and then trim anything that I need to trim off before I glue all of the pieces off. So I usually like to trim underneath where I've sewn just a little bit to make sure it lies a bit more flat. I then go ahead and stick the neck onto the head first, and I usually let that dry overnight so I have a solid base to start with, so when I add the polyfill it won't sort of break through and leak out. But I'll do that after I've left it to dry overnight, just so it's a nice solid foundation for the doll. So once I've done that, I'll put the armature in. It really depends what armature I'm using, but I have a wire armature in my shop as well, a tutorial if you're interested in that. But this one is a ball and socket armature for this doll because of the size of it. And then I'll go ahead and sew all the loose ends up using a ladder stitch. And I have a ladder stitch video on my channel if you're interested in how to do that. Once it's all sewn up, I'll use that same tacky fabric glue to stick the fur to the legs, and anything else that needs to be glued, or there's like a fine line of how much glue to apply, so you don't want to apply too much where it leaks through the fabric, and you don't want to apply not enough that it doesn't hold. But at the end of the day, you can always apply more if you haven't applied enough. So if you're unsure, just do a little bit first and then apply some more later on. Once that's done, I can move on to applying the fur on the face, and I'm just going to show a quick snippet of me in the middle of the process. So I'm just making sure all of the curves are lined up and the fur is actually flowing right. And then once I've applied all that, I usually leave it to dry overnight to make sure nothing will come off and make sure the fur is properly adhered. I give it a trim after that, and then I will add in any little details that I think need to be added, or I think that's been lost by applying the fur. It's usually around the eyes, the nose, and up the nose, and maybe around the brow area and the mouth as well. So I'm just going in with that second coat of that black acrylic paint around the eyes, and then I'll leave that to dry properly, the whole thing, again overnight. And then I can move on to furring the feet, and it's pretty much done, really. And then we can move on to adding little details like whiskers. I have a whiskers post going up on my Patreon for my $5 and up patrons, so that will be coming up very soon as well. So that's pretty much it. This doll's ready to be sent off to their owner. It is a commission. If you would like to commission me, send me a message. It depends whether I'm open or not, or whether I have a run of commissions. But yeah, feel free to message me on my Facebook or on my website at creaturesofnat.com. You can also check me out on Instagram and Facebook, also at Creatures of Nat. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.